If you want your kids to learn algebra the easy way, specifically we're going to focus on how to solve one-step equations, then you'll want to join me for the next 5 to 6 minutes, because at the end of this video, your kids are going to walk away really understanding what it is they're doing and how to go about it. All right, so let's go down to my desk and let's take it step by step. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to think about what it is we're solving for. If I said to you, you have a certain amount of stuff, and if I add 3 to it, then we'll get 10. Now, most people can do this in their head. You'll probably say, oh, that's easy, that's 7. There's only one number that will make this statement true. So that's what we're solving for when we solve for x. X is something we don't know. Now, initially you might think, why even bother? This is so easy. Because later, when you get to engineering classes, physics classes, chemistry classes, you name it, solving for x is going to involve more than one step. It's going to be a lot more steps involved. So first, this is the first shot at learning how to solve these types of equations. So look over here. If I said I've got 2 times something is going to give me 4. So there's only one number that you can put in there that will satisfy this equation and make it true, right? Not 0, not 1, not 5, but it's going to be a 2. Okay, so how did I solve these? So if we look back at the original equation, what we did is we want to identify where the unknown is. Okay, so you put your finger on it, that's your unknown, and that's what you need to get on one side of the equal sign. And then you put whatever else is here on the other side, and your answer will pop out. So the one thing you want to keep in mind when you do these one-step equations is whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other. So to get the 3 on the other side, I simply subtract 3. Okay, plus 3 and minus 3, now that equals 0. So now all I have left on this side is an x. 10 minus 3 is 7. So my answer is x equals 7, which is what we talked about before. How about this one? What if they're multiplied? Okay, so the original equation was 2x equals 4. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to divide by whatever's in front of the x. So if it's multiplied by 2, do you remember back in fractions when we had something that looked like this? And we said if 3 out of 3, what does that mean? That means you have a whole unit divided into thirds, that's the bottom 3, and the top 3 says, oh, what we're talking about is 3 of those pieces. Okay, so this thing equals 1. All right. So if I divide by the same number that's on the top, then this will go to 1, but I've got to do the same thing on both sides of the equation. So 2 over 2, that goes to 1, so I'm left with x equals 4 divided by 2 is 2, and there's my answer to the original problem up there. Now, before we do the next example, I hear from a lot of parents whose kids are frustrated with math in school. Now, if you can relate to this, I think I have something that can help. I would like to invite you and your kids to join me for a free online class in learning math the easy way. You can register at no charge by clicking the link below or in the description. It's also in the comments. Or you can simply go to getmath.net/learn. Okay, let's get back to the example problems. Here's our next problem. X minus 5 equals 2. Which one is the one that's the unknown? It's going to be the x. Now, it doesn't have to be an x. It could be a y. It could be an a. It could be a letter. So usually when we first do one-step equations, we keep it to x. Okay? We want it by itself, so that means you got to put the 5 on the other side. To do that, you just simply add something that will make this go to 0. So if you have minus 5, you're going to have plus 5. If this was a plus 5, this would be a minus 5 that we're doing right now. Okay, you've got to do it to both sides of the equation. So x minus 5 plus 5, that's 0, so you can just leave that down, equals 2 plus 5 is 7. Good. Let's try another one. How about 16 equals 8x? Okay. So one-step equations just means there's only one step, and then you have your answer. Now you can imagine the next thing we're going to do is two-step equations, but let's get good at one step first. All right, so I have an x here. Now I can't minus 8, right? So if I say minus 8 on both sides, that doesn't help here because there's no x next to it. So instead what we're going to do is we are going to divide both sides by whatever's in front of the x. So if it's a multiplication, we divide. If it's an addition or subtraction, we do addition and subtraction. Okay, multiplication and division, we do multiplication and division. All right, so 8 over 8, that goes to 1. 16 over 8, that's 2. And x is equal to 2. And you can even check your answer by putting the 2 back in here and saying, oh yeah, 8 times 2, that's equal to 16. Okay, great. Let's try a couple more. How about one where the unknown has a denominator? What if I do x divided by 5 equals 10? How do I do that one? Same way. So how do we get rid of the 5? We want the x by itself. Okay, so if you remember that example that I talked about with fractions, you remember the 3 over 3 equals 1. It doesn't matter where the number is, just do the opposite. So this another way of writing this is 1/5 times x equals 10. That's the same thing as this. Okay, and to get rid of this 1/5, I'm going to multiply both sides by 5. Do you see how the 5 over 5 is going to go away? All right, that's going to be a 1, not a 0. 5 over 5 is 1. And I have an x equals 10 times 5, which is 50. And if you look, 50 divided by 5, that is 10. Great. Let's do one more. Let's say we have an x minus a 3 equals 1. Okay, how would you do this? Would you divide, multiply, add, or subtract? Okay, because the x is already by itself, there's nothing in front of it like there was here. Right, this one had a 1/5 in front of it. Okay, so we leave that alone. So what we're going to do is addition and subtraction. So we're just going to get this x, we're going to put this minus 3 on the other side, and we say plus 3. Okay, so x equals minus 3 plus 3, that's 0. 1 plus 3 is 4, and x is equal to 4. So remember, if your x is being multiplied or divided by a number, then you have to multiply or divide to get rid of that number, okay, to make it turn into 1. In this case, what we're doing is we're adding and subtracting numbers to make it go to 0, okay, because we want this to go on the other side. If you try to make this go to 0, you'll get nothing, right, because x times 0, that's not going to help you solve this. So if it's multiplying or if it's dividing like our first example was here, okay, so this is our first example. This is 2 times x, so we had to divide by 2. This one was x plus 3, okay, the plus 3, it's not being multiplied, but plus 3, so we are going to subtract it to get the actual number. Okay, you see the difference? If you want your kids to learn math the easy way without the tedious frustrations that so many kids face, I'd like to invite you and your kids to join me for my free online class in learning math the easy way. We have it in lots of different areas of math. You can register at no charge by clicking the link below or clicking the description in the comments, or you can simply go to getmath.net/learn.